In this video, we are going to talk about how Sony, specifically Avi Arad, had Marvel Studios remove most mentions and references of Uncle Ben and Peter's parents from Spider-Man Far From Home. And the reason I couldn't put it in the last video is because I couldn't have this confirmed just yet, but I have confirmed it with somebody that said the extent of what's been said online is true. And it actually connects to an old piece of news we talked about a year and a half to 2 years ago. So as a few outlets and people have reported online, when it came to Spider-Man Far From Home directly mentioning Uncle Ben and Peter's parents, this was actually going to be in the Mysterio sequence, which has since been confirmed that yes, this was going to be a thing. Now, what actually happens is that there were going to be two gravestones, one for Peter's parents, the other one for his uncle. But it was Avi Arad making the call that he did not want any of this in there, and they wanted that replaced with Tony Stark. And at the same time, this was done because Avi sees him as a spiritual father figure, and the amount of money they spent originally in Spider-Man Homecoming to get Robert Downey Jr., he wanted more payoff of it. Now, at the same time, I confirmed with somebody that this goes back to the previous report that when it came to Marvel Studios, and one of the reasons that they had to fall out with Sony was due to that mandate where characters had to be changed by Marvel Studios that could not reference previously used characters that Sony wanted to use or had used. For example, no Norman Osborn, because Norman Osborn might be, and we kind of knew was in development in some way, shape, or form with the Silver and Black movie. So cut all that out. This is what in effect was done with Peter's parents, because Abby and Sony were still sitting on the idea that once the contract negotiations fall apart, which they were hoping on because they wanted a big stake of the money, which we saw the contract negotiations took Spider-Man out, they didn't want these characters mentioned by Marvel Studios in the first two films, because when they pulled Peter Parker, Tom Holland out of their universe and did their own take on it, then they could do these characters, put them in their film, all the references, and hopefully gain back the fans. So what you're seeing here is that Avi Arad was on purpose sabotaging Marvel Studios and limiting them with his involvement and what they could do, because he didn't want it, because he was saving it for his own stuff. Again, do you guys see a pattern here? Same thing with The Amazing Spider-Man. The moment that that franchise was greenlit, Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige tried to talk to them to put TASM in the MCU. They had meetings. They were going to try to put Oscorp Tower in there. They were willing to work with them. Abby kept saying, no, 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 we don't want that. Until it was too late and all those emails and everything hit. And then they had to go backwards and go, well, fine, we'll finally do it. But put limitations on it because he is attached to Spider-Man, or was at the hip. So why don't you have a proper MJ? Well, you can't have an MJ because Abby's holding on to that because, you know, contracts, limitations, things like that. Why is Spider-Man gotta be Iron Boy Jr.? Well, Abby wants Iron Man to be the spotlight to get a big old, you know, payday for him to put him on all the posters, so Peter can't be as heroic up until down the road. Also take out all the mentions of Uncle Ben and the parents because I want those for my thing when we finally get it. It's disappointing, but at least it sounds like he's maybe out of the picture now, which we'll talk about that when I find out more.